God be with you.
Master Huntsman, is there any work for me here?
As always, you're that Scarlet's lad, aren't you? Sir Radzig's lackey.
That'll be me.
Right. I saw you here shortly after the attack. My word, to get away from Talmberg like that, quite remarkable. It's clear you're not easily scared. So I do have a job for you.
I'm listening.
We've been having terrible problems with poachers lately. In Sir Divish's forests, we've been finding gutted entrails of deer and rabbit nooses all over the place. But no sign of the bastards who put them there.
And you want me to track down the poachers?
Indeed. Whatever you learn will be useful to me.
Do you suspect anyone?
Well, it's hard to say, but seeing how much harm they're causing, I'd say they're no crofters looking for a Sunday roast.
Shouldn't you be dealing with the poachers yourself?
I should, you're quite right. But when I ask the local folk anything, their mouths close up like clams. They're more scared of me than the devil.
Do you think the locals are in on it?
Well, I don't know, maybe. But even if not, they'll never talk to me. They're scared I'll dig some skeleton out of their cupboard. You know, the smaller the village, the bigger the secrets. That's why I need an outsider to ask for me.
I understand. I'll try to find out something about them. Any advice about where to start?
Certainly. Ask around the village. Somebody must have seen or heard something. And it wouldn't hurt to ask in the Inn in the Glade, the one on the road towards Neuhoff. I've heard they serve good venison, and no shortage of it.
That's clear enough. As soon as I hear anything, I'll let you know.
Thanks for your help, lad. See you later.
God save.
I heard you've got a poaching problem in the woods around here.
In the woods and out of them. Not long back the bastards hung a deer's head on the huntsman's house.
That's pretty brazen of them.
Certainly is. Word around the village is that someone wants to shame him till he squirms.
Do you think it was someone local?
I really don't know. All sorts of things get said. Hannikin Hare's back, if you listen to some, and others are going on about Tom of the Baths. I swear blind he's got his fingers in it.
And what about you?
It could be anyone. There's more than one that has it in for Nicholas. And who knows what the neighbors get up to by night.
What's so suspicious about this Thomas?
Just that he was drunk and blabbering about how he was going to bring back venison from the woods.
Tell me something about Hannikin Hare.
He used to be Master Huntsman here a while back. But then Nicholas got him accused of a murder, and the Hare had to flee. It cost him the huntsman's rank and Margaret, too.
What happened between Hare and Nicholas, anyway?
Those two didn't get on from the start. And then that business with Margaret really set them at each other's throats. But it all came to a head about 15 years back when Sir Henry of Lipa came to visit.
Sir Hanish's father?
Just so. There was a banquet at the castle in his honor, and in the morning they found one of Sir Henry's men-at-arms in the ditch with his neck broken. Well, Nicholas made sure the blame fell on Hannikin Hare.
So how did Nicholas put the blame on Hare?
Nicholas always had a viper's tongue, and events made it easy for him. That evening there'd been a right falling out between Hare and the guardsman. Blows were struck. Well, Sir Divish didn't want any ill will with Sir Henry, so he tried to settle things as quick as he could, and Hare got the short straw.
What was going on with Margaret?
Her father promised her to Hannikin, because they seemed a good match. But Nicholas couldn't stomach that, so he did what he did.
I want to ask about something else. So why do people think Tom of the Baths is involved?
Ah, that's just nonsense.
Did he?
I doubt it. He's all mouth. But if you want to know more, ask my husband, the innkeeper. I wasn't here that
Putting a deer's head on the huntsman's house sounds pretty risky. Why would anyone do that?
Maybe they want to show that Huntsman Nicholas is no match for them. And they're not wrong. He isn't the man he should be.
That'll be all.
God be with you.
Greetings, good night. How may I serve you?
I've heard Tom of the Baths was mouthing off in here.
So he did. He and Jack Piper were bragging about how they'd make a feast for village lasses. That there'd be venison roasted in enough beer to fill a river. And a few days later, they did come and buy a few kegs of beer from me.
Did they have anything else to say?
Not really. I told him to shut up, or someone would hear him and there'd be trouble.
And what did he say to that?
Nothing. He had more booze in him than the castle cellar. He just hiccuped and slid under the table. Piper took him off after that, thank God.
Do you suppose he meant it?
Hardly. He's nothing but a braggart.
All right, I'd best ask him myself.
Feel free to ask, but don't believe half what he says.
And who is this Jake Piper?
Oh, he's Tom's best mate. A decent fellow. They call him the Piper because everywhere he goes, he's whistling on that pipe of his.
Where can I find him?
Well, most likely in the quarry. He lends a hand there to make ends meet.
Folk were talking about Hannikin Hare.
Oh, good Lord. People do like to prattle on. Don't you go believing a word they say. It's the back of beyond here, and they'll tell any tale to spice things up a bit.
Do you think Nicholas isn't doing enough?
A master huntsman who lets poachers run wild through his woods? He's useless. He couldn't even stop them hanging a stag's head on his own house.
Right. Thank you, Inkeep.
See you later.
God save you, good knight. What can I do for you?
I'm here to find out about the poachers gang, and I need to ask a few questions.
Well, ask away. I don't have all day.
I heard you were yelling in the tavern that you were off to hunt some venison.
Look here. I don't know who you are, but you should watch your mouth.
I will, don't you worry. So what happened then?
What? Nothing. It was just the beer talk. I got pissed and started spouting shit. Didn't mean a word of it.
Maybe not. That remains to be seen. That'll do me. I hear there's been trouble.
I don't have time to talk to strangers. Take care now.
God save you, good knight. What can I do for you?
I need to ask you something about the poachers.
What? Me? Why me, for Christ's sake?
They say you were mouthing off in the tavern.
We'd all had a few ales. You know what it's like. The tales get taller.
So you didn't go poaching with Thomas?
My God, no. That would never even cross our minds. Thomas is a bit wild, but I have some sense at least. Goodbye.
Good evening.
I'd like to find out about the poachers round here who've been stealing game recently.
If you ask me, there's some questions best left unanswered. But go and see Olena if you're determined. That old gossip will tell you all there is to know.
I'd like to ask you about Hannikin Hare.
I'm sorry, but I really don't want to talk about that.
The thing is, every time I spoke to someone about Hare, they always ended up talking about you.
But I don't.
You aren't to blame for anything, is that it? Well, I am willing to believe you, but you do know more than you're telling, and I need to hear it.
Very well. You're right. And what would you like to know about Hare?
How were things between you and Hare back then?
There was nothing between us. Hannikin Hare impressed my father with all his talk of noble blood. But I couldn't stand him, and I didn't want to marry him. And then it made no odds after he ran away.
So you didn't want to? I only asked because I've heard differently.
That's village talk. Of course folk gossip. Mostly they just want to hurt Nicholas.
Did Hare really commit the murder?
God in heaven, how should I know? Anyway, it doesn't matter now.
That remains to be seen. That'll be everything.
Goodbye.
Who's there? Hey, who's there?
What are you, over here, please? Henry, I'm glad you came.
God's blessings.
I heard there are poachers in the woods round here.
If only if it was just poachers. It's that sorcerer Hare. He's the one who's been running amok. I said he'd be back, and I said he'd be vengeful, and I was right both times.
Tell me something about Hannikin Hare.
Ah, that was all years ago. He turned up here one day. No one rightly knew where from. He claimed up at the castle to be a nobleman's son, and so he got the office of Master Huntsman, and Margaret was promised him for his wife. Nobody could have known he was a sorcerer.
And how did his sorcery reveal itself?
Well, he was able to vanish into thin air in the forest right in front of folk. And I've heard it said he spoke to animals, too, though I don't know the truth of it.
That doesn't sound very convincing to me.
That's because you've not seen his marksmanship. It wasn't natural, the things he could do with that bow of his. They say he sold his soul for the gift of it.
I see. How did it go with Margaret?
I'm not one to gossip, but she was a flighty lass in her younger years. She could never make up her mind which one she wanted, the hare or Nicholas, so in the end, fate decided for her.
What do you mean? What happened with Hare?
Oh, that was quite something. And then some on top of it. Sir Henry of Lipa was visiting here at the castle, and Hare snapped his guardsman's neck with his bare hands. Of course, they found him out. But how do you keep a sorcerer under lock and key? You can't. That's your answer. And that Satan spawn slipped the net.
Oh well, it's quite a wild story. Any idea why he murdered the man?
No one knows, and most likely never will. But they say he was fully in the devil's power. There was a full moon, you see.
Was he actually seen killing the guardsman?
I suppose so. Else they'd hardly know who did it, would they?
That's probably true. There is one up. Has anyone actually seen this Hannikin Hare? He seems to exist only as a bogeyman to frighten naughty children.
Oh, he exists all right. But he flits around in the forest like a shadow. They won't be catching him anytime soon. But Blacksmith's Betty heard some of their goings-on in the woods.
Goings-on? What's that supposed to mean?
Cavorting and raising hell. Sorcery! Hare meets up with his sorcerer's apprentices, and they feast in the clearing in the woods. In the morning, they turn into ravens and scatter. Or so she says. But you'll have to ask Betty for more. Who knows what she saw? Or what she was doing there with them.
Very well. I'll ask. Who does Hare want revenge on?
Master Huntsman Nicholas, of course. When the hare disappeared, Nicholas took his Margaret and the huntsman's posting.
So Nicholas came out of it well?
That one always knew how to land on his feet.
Thanks.
Good luck, then.
Jesus Christ be praised.
Listen, innkeeper, I hear you have some game here from time to time.
Aye, we have dice games happening most nights.
You make a stuffed bird laugh. You know full well what I mean.
No, I've no idea what you're talking about.
I'm not here to make any trouble for you. Just looking for some job I can aim for. Another string to my bow, so to speak.
I think I'm catching your drift.
Splendid.
But before I tell you anything, I'll have to put you to the test. You know, I can't send every Tom, Dick and Harry to my friends.
Fair enough. What do you want me to do?
At the stud farm near here, there's a stable hand by the name of Yakub. Bastard got lucky at dice and won my favourite tankard.
And what's that got to do with me?
If you'd stop interrupting, you might find out. Anyway, he's so full of himself, he doesn't want to give it back, not even for money. But he's very fond of archery, and I don't need to add he likes to make bets.
I'm with you. If I can win your tankard back and bring it to you, you'll know that
You're not completely useless. That's right. So, get going. I'm thirsty, and I'll always taste it better out of my trusty old tankard.
I'm honoured that a knight such as you takes an interest in me.
I hear you won a tankard off Andrew the innkeeper.
I did. Luck was on my side. What's it to you?
You ought to give it back,
Why should I?
because the innkeeper wants it back, and because I fucking say so.
Manly words. But if you want the tankard, words won't be enough.
Fine. Have it your way.
Good luck then.